and welcome to the Flourishing Introvert Talks with me, Jo Rawbone. This is the podcast that celebrates the natural gifts of introverts so that we can flourish in all situations. Episode 200. My letter to my younger self. This episode marks a significant milestone in my podcasting journey. 200 weekly episodes without a break, and still I have more to say. Who says introverts have nothing to contribute? Anyway, December the 7th, the day this episode hits the airwaves, is designated as Letter Writing Day, and that gave me an idea. To mark this auspicious occasion, and given that it's my 200th episode, I decided to write a letter to my younger self and include some of the lessons I'll learn during my lifetime. I've seen people do this a few times, and in the past I've written letters to my future self, but I don't think I've ever written a letter to my younger self. There's an often quoted phrase about wanting to be young again, knowing everything you know now. Not for me, thanks. I've learned so much that if I were to have my time over again, it might have made my life easier. But for me, it was through the pain of the lessons that the learning became so significant. So, here goes. Dearest Jojo, I write this to you from towards the end of your 65th year, and I'm delighted to share with you that you're growing older as you have lived life, with curiosity, optimism, and grace. They always told you Tuesday's child is full of grace, and you still favour grace over ineptitude. I know you look around you and wonder why you don't feel like you fit in. Firstly, know that there is nothing wrong with you. You aren't broken or in need of fixing, and yet some will succeed in breaking you, and you'll recover. Secondly, you don't need to fit in. You need to stand out, not brashly, but with serenity, with quiet determination, and with compassion. Be mindful that all those years pretending to be something you weren't in order to try to fit in and get on will come at a high price mentally. So be ready for it, because as you make your choices in life, you'll learn so much about the world, about others, and about yourself. You'll have some fabulous experiences, and know that from early on in your learning and development career, you're already making significant impact on people's lives. Remember what the now deceased Jackie Rogers said to you years after attending one of your courses. She said, "I still use what you taught me on that first session. Thank you." Store that little gem away, as it'll serve as a useful reminder when you're questioning who you are and what you're doing in life. And you will question those things. The pull to be like others becomes greater when you join MAST, as the culture is so full of extroversion bias. When you're called dull as remember, it says more about them than it does you. And whilst it might open the door to your sense of inferiority, later you will find your interiority, as Caroline McHugh calls it. So don't take it to heart, as it's all part of learning and will serve you well eventually. So lesson number 1, you are enough. Be the tall poppy that stands on their own, because as you become known for being quietly powerful, calmly confident, and gently challenging, others will find their way to you. Now, as for your difference, it won't be until your 30s that you find out how you're different. During the Women's Leadership course run by Cranfield School of Management, you'll take the Myers-Briggs test that shows you to be an introvert. And it'll be like someone can see inside your soul, so treasure that moment of recognition. Although your profile rings true and up to 50% of any population identify as an introvert, you somehow get it into your head that all of the successful people, well, in your sphere anyway, are extroverts. And so begins your journey of pretending and your eventual descent into introvert burnout. So be ready to step off the world for a while in order to reclaim who you really are. Don't get me wrong, you have fun along the way and expand your comfort zone immensely, but it's not sustainable. And with every valley there is a peak, and the peak in this case is that it gives you an insider's knowledge of how it feels to try to succeed in a world biased towards the extrovert ideal. These experiences enable you to empathise from a place of real understanding, and it'll be this that will help you differentiate yourself from those who claim to understand what introverts need. So, be ready to get incensed, offended, and otherwise riled as the misunderstandings are presented as fundamental truths and thrown around like confetti. So lesson number 2, don't doubt yourself when others choose their interpretation. Stay curious, be open to exploring, and hold your understanding high. Which leads me to my next point. You'll find your purpose quite late in life, and there's nothing wrong with that. All the experiences you're having provide you with what you eventually need. Don't try to force it any earlier, as honestly, I don't think you'll be ready. The years you spend working in the Middle East, training and coaching the nationals to work together in harmony will help you to find that interiority that I mentioned a while back. You find your natural introvert strengths of resourcefulness, purposeful curiosity and empathy help to build your resilience, expand your horizons, and enable you to see more of what is possible. You really do have untapped potential that the world needs you to realise. It's this self-awareness that enables you to recognise untapped potential in others. You'll really grow into your ikigai, your true purpose, in your late 50s. So lesson number 3 is, it really is never too late to start, to finish, or to pivot. Age is but a number, and far from writing yourself off as being pensionable age, you'll write yourself into a bigger role. This next one is a little harder because it confronts your sense of morality. Are you ready? Adults aren't always honest. Does that sound naive in some way? Maybe, and I remember how many times I've been shocked about just how willing people are to exaggerate, to flex the truth to suit their own needs, or tell downright whoppers. These days I run a course for one of my clients for the new joiners, and the course is about ethical communications. It seems like it's a given in many ways, and yet it really is not common practice. People will tell you what they think you want to hear or what they can get away with. Not really acceptable in my world. What happened to being accountable and accepting responsibility for my actions, or my inactions, come to that? I care slightly less about what people do in their private lives. That's their business in many ways. But when it affects colleagues and clients in the workplace, I do take issue. If people practiced this and took responsibility, we wouldn't have had the post office scandal in the UK, where a software provider knew there were glitches in their system but didn't communicate it. So for whatever reason, probably to save face, their reputation or their own jobs, they allowed postmasters to be prosecuted for supposed losses and later imprisoned. The lives of these innocent people were wrecked. Some committed suicide from the shame of knowing they'd done nothing wrong, yet the software company has not been held to account. I ask a question on the course I run. Does the capacity for moral reasoning always result in moral behaviour? Clearly not. One of the reasons this caught me out is that I prefer to trust people from the outset. My choice, I know. It does mean that I'm turned over from time to time, but it's still preferable to me rather than starting from a position of distrust. So lesson number 4, as you prefer to trust, conduct adequate due diligence so your trust doesn't come at too financially high a price. You are skilled and intuitive enough to pick up incongruence. You will make some financially painful mistakes around who you trust as you're building Flourishing Introverts. And that's something you never encountered when building Scintilla. It never occurred to you that you needed training in how to build your business in the face-to-face corporate world. You just got on with it. And yet somehow you feel you need masterminds and trainings and memberships to help you get set up in the online world. The reality is you have more experience of business than many of the experts you'll be taking advice from. Don't fret though, because the good news is you'll meet some fabulous people who will remain a key part of your journey long after the thing that brought you together is over. So lesson number 5 is trust yourself more. Gladys, your inner critic, is a pretty persistent creature, and she sure knows how to get you to play small. I suggest you stay open and discerning, an interesting combination, and think about your lesson number 4. There are unscrupulous business owners out there who play on insecurities and feed your Gladys. Don't let them. She's overfed as it is. Take your time. Remember there's no hurry, and it's never too late. Until it is, of course, but that's way off. Learn what you can from wherever feels right, not a challenge for you as a lifelong learner, and catalogue your lessons. Believe me when I say you'll have so many, it'll be too easy to forget just how far you've come and what you've learned. It feels like the time is coming to sign off, dearest Jojo. I just want to say you are building towards something wonderful, something you get great satisfaction from, and something that others really benefit from. Enjoy the ride. Take note of all of your lessons, the significant and the seemingly trivial, as eventually you'll pull all of this together in a book. On that note, thank you for experiencing life to the full, even when things got tough. I applaud you for not retreating, not playing the victim, and most of all, for showing up fully and being prepared to be a role model. I am the result of your quietly gutsy intentions. Happy journeying. With so much love, Joanna. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, then please subscribe, rate us and leave a comment, because we know that helps other people find the podcast. And if other people find us, other introverts can flourish.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.